The 2024 presidential campaign was even more of a mess for Democrats than we even saw. According to several new books about the last few months of the election, they're writing books about it now. In one book, Biden advisor Ron Klain claimed there was a lot of concern that Biden couldn't keep up with the debate prep and he would fall asleep by the pool.
Me too.
Me too. Another book claims President Obama didn't want VP Harris to take Biden's place. His choice was Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Now, these are books that people are writing, so we have to take a lot of this, I think, with a bit of a grain of salt. I mean, if any of this is true, what can Democrats do about it now? I mean, it seems to me this ship has sailed. What's the point?
I'd rather read a book about what Trump did to us when he was president and what he's doing to us now.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in that. I'm not interested in looking back.
And
I mean, we're in a constitutional crisis right now.
Do we really believe that Trump is not falling asleep in the chair at Mar-a-Lago?
I actually wish he did fall
There were
asleep.
more books about Trump than I feel like anyone ever needed to
You
read.
wrote one.
I did.
You did.
I did.
We're in a moment where a lot of people are scared. They're nervous. They're worried that we're seeing America fundamentally changed. And a reason for that, not just a little asterisk, is that Joe Biden did not win, did not step aside in time to allow someone else to win.
Right.
And I do think it is a story that warrants some reflection, because even beyond the electoral consequences of Trump winning and what we're going to experience the next 4 years, I think there's also what I'm struck by, and I think highly of Biden. People always think I'm like so critical just because I think he needed to step aside and give someone else a chance. He does start to come off, the more we're learning, like, I alone can fix it. It almost comes off Trumpian.
And it was late also.
Well, but he should have done it sooner.
Right,
If he had after the debate, that would have given someone enough runway to actually run a winning campaign.
Well, I would say the learning lesson here is listen to the voters, because one thing that really pissed me off as an independent, and I was one of the people that sat here and said after seeing President Biden, I voted for Biden. I really like Biden. I actually have been happy with him, and I would have voted for him if he continued to run. But I did look at him and think, I think maybe you do need to step aside. And now the rumors that we're hearing starting to make sense. And what happened is everyone said, you're disloyal if you say that, shut up and fall in line. And that's why people want to be independents these days, because partisan politics, they lie. It was the Democratic Party that made that choice that said, you're betraying him if you call it like you see it. And the point here is he wasn't necessarily fit to run for another 4 years.
Okay, look, I know Ron Klein. I was texting with him yesterday. He's one of the longest advisors and very, very close to Biden. So this is probably very painful to them both.
So why say it?
Usually, because they, you know what, because
He's
folks
saying
get
the
caught
framing
up
was wrong.
talking about postmortems of campaigns
just
and
wanna
talking
sell
to
books.
reporters who are their friends. And usually I like these books. Usually I like the campaign gossip of primary colors after Clinton or after Obama or game change after McCain. But these are not normal times, so I'm just not interested in palace gossip from a year and a half ago, because I'm more interested about the children who are losing food because this government is cutting off the program, and the federal workers who are losing their jobs. And I'm interested about the deportation people who have no due process. And I'm, interested in the fact that we are at war with trade war with the rest of the world and threatening allies like Panama and Greenland.
Some of us warned that all of this specifically was coming. There were people beating the drum, explaining explicitly what a second Trump term would be.
Everyone.
We were saying it, but the Democrats could not put up something formidable enough to beat it.
Two things can be true at once. You can despise Trump and everything the Republicans stand for and still be able to see straight about what happened here. And denying it and telling people you're not seeing what you're seeing is never going to win voters.
I bet you every single person that voted for Kamala Harris wishes that Kamala Harris won right now.
I do.
I bet you that. Yeah. I bet you that, and I bet you there are a lot of people that voted for Trump that wish that Kamala
And
Harris
a lot of
was in the
people
White
who
House.
didn't vote who are probably regretting it now. And I always said I would prefer Joe Biden in a coma over Trump, and I maintain that.